let's create a theory for our project. Now, a good theory for our tracking service is that if you pass in a positive value to add protein, the total will always be a positive value. We can make a theory that can prove that with a set of data. We'll go ahead and create a new class for this, and we'll call this tracking service theories. Then inside here, what we're going to do is we're going to set up this run with. We need to make this one run with theories.class. Now we need to set up our data points. We're going to use this data points annotation. You'll notice there's a data point and data points. If we use data point, it'll be one data point. We can specify them one at a time if we do it that way, or we can do data points and we can specify a bunch of them at once. We're going to do the data points, and what we're going to do is create a public static method that's going to return an array of integers. We'll call this data, and we'll just do return new int array, and we'll initialize it in here. We'll basically put in, let's say, 1, 5, 10, 15, 20, 50. And then let's put in one negative value. Let's put in a -4. So that'll be our data. Then we need to create a theory. So we'll do @theory. And we're using this in place of our test. We're going to do public void, and we'll say positive values should always have positive totals. And what we'll do is we'll take in a parameter, an integer. This will be our value. And we'll use a tracking service. Let's go ahead and create a new tracking service. We'll just create one here called tracking service. Do our import, and we'll do service.addProtein value. Then what we'll do is we'll check this to make sure that the total is greater than 0. And here we can just use a simple assert. Let's go ahead and do our import static org.junit.assert.star. We're just going to assert true service.getTotal is greater than 0. Should always be greater than 0. Now, this negative is going to create a problem for us, but let's go ahead and run this. If we just try and run our test, you can see we're getting an error here. This is assertion error. If we take out this -4 and make it positive, save it, rerun our test, everything passes. So we have a problem if we throw in a negative value. Of course, it doesn't hold for a negative value. What we can do, though, is we can leave this negative value, and we can just say assume that, and then you can see that we have a few different ways that we can do assume. We can do assume that with that matcher, or we can do assume true. Let's say assume true that we're going to say value is greater than 0. Now, what's going to happen is this assume is going to cause us to ignore any values that don't meet the assumption. So we have a theory. A theory says that this needs to hold true, but it holds true under this particular set of assumptions. If value is greater than 0, then the total is going to always be greater than 0. But if value isn't greater than 0, we don't make any guarantees about what the total is, so we're not going to count that as a failure. So now, if we run this theory, you can see everything passes because it skips that particular data value of -4 because it fails this assumption. And you can use assumptions in other places than theories. Anywhere you put an assumption in a test, if that assumption fails, then that test is basically going to be ignored. It's not going to cause a failure.